Today I'm going to show you how to make a spice Swiss roll, and we're going to go through some troubleshooting tips and a little bit of how to fix things when things go a little bit awry. Here are your ingredients, but don't worry, I'll include a link below that will give you full nutrition information and more details as usual. The first thing you want to do is prepare a 9 by 13 cake pan or a 23 by 33 centimeter. Put some parchment paper in it or wax paper, and you need a cooling rack. Now if you have a jelly roll pan, it works wonders. Preheat that oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit or 190 C. The next thing we're going to do is sift together some dry ingredients. 1/2 cup of flour, 75 grams, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, which is 2 grams, 2.5 grams to be exact, and 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, which is 3 grams. You can use baking powder in place of baking soda if you don't have it. 1/2 cup of cocoa powder, which is 40 grams. And then finally our spices, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, which is 4 grams, 1/2 teaspoon of ginger, 2 grams, and 1/2 teaspoon of allspice, which is 2 grams. If you don't have allspice, feel free to use nutmeg and cloves in equal amounts, or leave it out entirely. And when I mean equal amounts, you want 1/4 teaspoon each. Sift this together and set it aside. In a large bowl, we're going to put 4 eggs, 200 grams, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 5 milliliters, and 1/2 cup of sugar, 100 grams. And we're going to beat this until it's really nice and fluffy. This is not the consistency we were looking for, and a lot of people stop here, and this is where you make a mistake. You want to mix this on medium-high until it ribbons off and it sinks back down within 3 seconds like this. It's going to be a nice pale yellow. Next, we're going to sift in those dry ingredients. If you don't have a sifter, just do a little bit at a time and fold it in. I'm going to show you the folding process, and then I will show you some more tips. But the less that you mix with this batter, the fluffier your cake will be. So try to fold gently. I will tell you that using a whisk actually helps a lot, especially if you're a beginner, because you're less likely to knock out the air using a whisk. Once you get it to this stage, you're going to add in a little bit more of the flour mixture, and you want to do it about 1/4 at a time. That way you get it really well incorporated. Now, one of the mistakes a lot of people will make is they'll think that this is completely mixed through, but then when they go to pour it in, there's actually pockets like this. See how it's not completely mixed in? What I like to do is fold and then do 1/4 of a turn with my bowl every once in a while, and that helps you get all that dry ingredients really well incorporated. This is what it's going to look like at the end. It's going to be really nice and thin batter, but it'll still have some air. And we're just going to pour this into that cake pan, again 9 by 13 or 23 by 33 centimeter. You don't need a jelly roll pan, despite what some people think. I don't use a jelly roll pan anymore because I just like to use things that are simple. I like this because if it grows a little bit taller than a jelly roll pan, it can contain it completely. The benefits is the fact that you will never have to worry about this overflowing in your oven. Now there's 2 ways that you could spread this out. You could use gravity and let it just kind of gently flow into the corners like this, or you can use a spatula, or you can use a combination of both. I'm going to do both because I just am lazy and I kind of think it's really fun to do this. It's like lava or something. So the next thing you're going to do is spread it out evenly if you can. And if not, all that happens is you might end up with some cracks, or it might not be the perfect swirl. It will still be absolutely delicious. Now here's a fun fact. You're going to use a dry, lint-free towel or parchment paper to roll this up. You do not want to use wax paper like I am using right now, and I will show you later on why it's a bad idea. But at the time when I did this, I thought it would be a brilliant idea so you could really see what it's like to see this being rolled up. And you want to sprinkle sugar all the way around it, about 2 tablespoons worth, or about 16 grams. And I use powder sugar, but you can use a fine granulated sugar. Bake this in the oven for 8 to 10 minutes or until it just starts to come away from the sides and it bounces back when you touch it. You do not want to over bake this. Let it cool for just a few moments so you can handle it, and then you're going to turn it out while it's still warm onto that sugared towel or parchment paper. Again, do not use wax paper, and you will see how bad of an idea that was. This is where you get to work with hot cake, and let me tell you, it is not pleasant when you first start baking. If you can't do this, just let it cool a little bit. The worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to get cracks. It will still taste absolutely amazing. Don't burn yourself. Don't be a hero. You want to peel this off gently. The slower you go, the less cake batter will stick to the parchment paper. But if you go fast and you force it, you're going to have more cling to the parchment paper. So just take your time. And if it takes you 30 minutes, it takes you 30 minutes. But honestly, it only took me about 20 seconds. And I had very little tear away. So now we're going to fold up either the towel or the parchment paper. But the really pretty thing about this wax paper is you get to see the process. Do it slowly and try to do a tight roll. Don't go fast. You're going to see that I'm going to have to pull my hands away because this is actually really hot. And I'm just like seriously thinking, why didn't I just let it cool a little bit more? And isn't this absolutely beautiful? You don't often get to see what the rolling looks like. So I did think that that was worth it using the wax paper just for you guys. Then you're just going to wrap it up in a towel if you want to let it cool completely. And you're going to put it back on that cooling rack and let it cool for at least an hour, or until when you touch it, it is just completely cool. If you try to ice it before then, it's going to just melt and go all over the place. While the cake is cooling, you want to get out your butter and let it sit at room temperature. And you want it to get soft to where it's pliable but not oily. You need 1/4 of a cup, 56 grams. You're going to need some cream cheese, and you're going to need some powdered sugar. The first thing I like to do is beat the butter by itself. This just ensures that it's creamy and you don't get any lumps. Then we're going to add in 1/2 cup or 4 ounces of cream cheese, and we're going to beat that until it's smooth. It'll look like this. And finally, we're going to add in our powdered sugar, 1 cup worth or 125 grams. And you want to add this a little bit at a time, because if not, you're going to make a huge mess. Beat it on low. You can also do this by hand. Every once in a while, stop and scrape down the sides so that you get any of the powdered sugar that's on the sides incorporated nicely. And then we're just going to continue to do this until it's a really nice smooth consistency. If you want a lot of filling, go ahead and double this recipe. I don't find it necessary, but some people really like the filling inside. And it's going to look very beautiful like this, and it's going to be very spreadable. Just drip off the spatula. Now that we have the cooled cake, we're going to unroll it. And again, if you haven't paid attention yet, you're going to really pay attention now. Use wax paper only if you want to make a huge mess. It works, but you're going to leave a lot of cake behind. So I recommend using a clean towel that is lint-free, that you only use for baking. Don't use one that you like wash with, and you want to wash it with detergent that you use your dishes for, or use parchment paper. And the reason why I don't recommend wax paper is right here. It is sticking severely to the cake. The way the wax paper worked as it cooled, it just basically adhered to the roll, and it just made a huge mess. And I have to go really gently. It made the cake overly moist, and it's just kind of stuck there. It will probably work, and I'm going to show you, if you just go really slow, you can fix this problem. It's not the end of the world if this happens. Just cover it up with some, powdered sugar or even some icing. It's not the end of the world. It will still taste delicious. It's just kind of a mess to make. So now we're going to put that filling on the inside, and we're going to spread it out on an even layer. Make sure you tuck it up inside this little swirly area. I'm not going to make you watch this whole thing. You can use a offset spatula if you have one. It makes it a lot easier, or the back of a spoon. I don't recommend using this spatula because it's just a really hard spatula to work with. It should go on a lot smoother than this. But again, I'm showing you mistakes and all in the kitchen, and how to improve upon your baking by seeing my mistakes. And this is what it looks like, and see how moist it was? It was just clinging to the cake and made some mess, but don't worry, you cover it up, it still looks good, it tastes delicious. This freezes actually very well. It's in my freezer now, and it's been in there for about a month, probably by the time you'll see this video. Take your time rolling this up. If you're using wax paper, despite what I told you and despite what you're seeing here, it's going to make a mess. I'm just taking my time unrolling it so it doesn't tear and you don't lose as much cake as possible. And see how sticky it is? That's because there was nowhere for that steam to escape. On the plus side, it doesn't look like I have like any real cracks. So maybe that's the benefit of the wax paper. I don't know, but I am not pleased with the mess this made. Like, I'm literally going to have to go wash off my hands before I can even do the next step. You want to take this and put it into a plastic wrapped paper and let it chill in the refrigerator until it's firm, at least 2 to 3 hours, or overnight is best because it will really let that filling set and it'll be really nice and easy to cut the next day. But at the minimum, 1 hour in the fridge is what my recommendation is. And look at all this beautiful cake that was left behind just because I was thinking I was going to be brilliant and show you guys with wax paper. It's okay though. You can scrape it off and eat it and nobody even knows. So as you can see, there are no cracks, which is a plus side, and to cover up the ugliness, we'll just sprinkle some powdered sugar on top. You could use cinnamon sugar since it's a spice cake, and that would be really nice because it would give a nice crunch to it and a nice spice in addition on the outside. Or you can just go traditional. Always cut off the end pieces, they're not going to be as pretty, and you can eat those yourself. Or if you have friends or family like I do that doesn't like a lot of icing, these are perfect to give to them. I will tell you that it gets prettier as you cut in. Now this swirl isn't going to be perfect because that wax paper just made it really difficult to swirl it up again. It's not a huge deal. It still tastes wonderful. You're not a professional baker. The swirl gets better as you go, and sometimes the swirl just doesn't happen as wonderful as you want it to. But Maggie thinks this looks absolutely delicious, and she doesn't understand why she can't have chocolate. She's always asking me, why can I not have chocolate? I'm sorry, Maggie, it's really bad for dogs, but it's great for humans. Let me show you this swirl. It is still very pretty. It looks wonderful. It's absolutely tasty. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. I hope you learned from my mistakes. Visit us at jacksonsjob.com for more. And as always, happy baking.